Every mountain on Earth with a name has a story behind it. Everest was named after a British surveyor. Kangchenjunga comes from a Tibetan phrase meaning 5 treasuries of snow. Annapurna translates as the goddess of the harvests. And then there is the second highest mountain in the world, a peak so remote, so isolated, and so completely cut off from any inhabited place that when British surveyors first measured it in 1856, not a single local person could tell them what it was called. So they kept the only name they had, the label scrawled in their field notebook during a survey of the Karakoram Range, K2. The K stands for Karakoram. The 2 is simply because it was the second peak that surveyor Thomas Montgom catalogued during the Great Trigonometrical Survey of India that year, sketching the range from a vantage point 210 kilometers away on Mount Haramuk. He intended to find the local name afterwards and replace the notation. He asked every local community in the area. Nobody knew it. The mountain was so remote that it remained invisible from every settlement in the region, not even visible from Ascoli, the nearest village to the south. No local had a name for it, because no local had ever needed one. Today, K2 stands at 8,611 meters on the Pakistan-China border, deep in the Karakoram Range, 237 meters shorter than Everest, but by almost every measure, more dangerous to climb. As of 2023, approximately 800 people have reached its summit. 96 have died in the attempt. Before 2021, the fatality rate stood at roughly 1 death for every 4 successful summits, a ratio that for much of the mountain's climbing history was significantly worse. The name that has followed K2 since 1953 captures what that figure means. George Bell, a climber on the American expedition that year, told reporters it is a savage mountain that tries to kill you. The Savage Mountain. That name has never been replaced. To understand why, you have to follow the route. The first ascent of K2 was completed by Italian climbers Lino Lacedelli and Achille Compagnoni on the 31st of July, 1954. They reached the top with their oxygen nearly exhausted after fighting through the bottleneck in deteriorating weather. Lacedelli later described arriving at the summit not as triumph, but as the moment he understood he still had to get back down. Of the roughly 800 people who have since followed them to that summit, 96 have not returned. The standard path to K2's summit is called the Abruzzi Spur. It takes its name from Prince Luigi Amadeo, Duke of Abruzzi, the Italian mountaineer, who led the first serious attempt on the mountain in 1909, reaching 6,250 meters before concluding the summit was unclimbable and turning back. 75% of all climbers who attempt K2 use this route. It is the most popular line for the simple reason that every alternative is harder. Reaching base camp alone requires a week of trekking across the Baltoro Glacier, one of the longest non-polar glaciers on Earth, over crevassed ice, loose moraine, and unstable terrain that regularly injures climbers before they have even touched the mountain. Unlike Everest, where a network of tea houses and well-worn trails leads thousands of trekkers to base camp every year, the approach to K2 offers none of that. No villages, no infrastructure, no reliable rescue. The Pakistani army controls the airspace due to the proximity of the disputed border with India, meaning evacuation helicopters are harder to dispatch and less likely to succeed at the altitudes required. Getting to K2 base camp at 5,000 meters is already a serious undertaking. What comes next is something else entirely. The Abruzzi Spur begins directly above base camp and offers no warm-up. The slope rarely falls below 40 degrees from the first step, working upward through alternating rock ribs and ice fields toward Camp 1 at around 6,100 meters. The first named technical obstacle appears shortly above, House's Chimney. Named after American climber Bill House, who first ascended it in 1938, it is a 30-meter near-vertical crack in a rock wall, rated 5.6 in climbing grades if free-climbed, currently threaded with decades of fixed ropes from previous expeditions. At altitude, In crampons, carrying a loaded pack, it demands technical rock climbing skill that most high-altitude mountaineers have rarely encountered before this point. For many, it is the first moment the mountain makes its intentions clear. It is not the hardest section on K2, it is simply the first. Camp 2 sits at 6,700 meters. The climb between Camp 2 and Camp 3 is the most technically demanding section of the entire route. It is known as the Black Pyramid, a towering buttress of dark, steep rock and unstable ice rising approximately 400 meters, requiring sustained mixed climbing with near vertical passages throughout. Rockfall is frequent and unpredictable. The ice coating the rock is often too thin to trust and too thick to ignore. At this altitude, the body is already functioning below 60% of its sea-level oxygen capacity, and every technical move demands coordination from a mind no longer operating at full speed. Camp 3 sits at approximately 7,300 meters at the top of the Black Pyramid, on the edge of what is called the Shoulder, a relatively flat snowfield serving as the final staging ground before everything above 8,000 meters. Climbers who clear the Black Pyramid have passed the mountain's most technically challenging terrain, but they have not yet reached its most deadly. Camp 4 is positioned somewhere on the shoulder, between 7,600 and 8,000 meters. Above it lies the death zone, and above that lies the section that statistically claims more lives on K2 than anywhere else on the mountain. It is called the Bottleneck, a narrow couloir barely wide enough to climb in single file, sitting at 8,200 meters, directly beneath an enormous wall of overhanging seracs. The couloir runs approximately 100 meters at an angle of 50 to 60 degrees. Passing through it requires traversing directly below that wall of hanging ice for the better part of an hour, knowing that any serac release from above arrives without warning and offers no chance of escape. According to Adventure Stats, 13 of the last 14 fatalities on K2 occurred at or near the bottleneck. To put that in context, the bottleneck is not even at the summit. It sits 400 meters below it. In August 2008, a serac collapse in the couloir triggered a cascade of ice that destroyed all the fixed ropes, swept several climbers off the mountain, and left others stranded above 8,200 meters with no path down and no means of rescue. 11 people died within 48 hours. It remains the single deadliest event in K2's climbing history. The summit push from Camp 4 takes between 12 and 16 hours in good conditions. Climbers leave between midnight and 1 in the morning to reach the top in daylight, and return through the bottleneck before the afternoon heat loosens the seracs above. That window is narrow, and K2's weather makes even that calculation unreliable. The mountain sits further north than Everest, in the direct path of a powerful jet stream that drives sudden, violent storms across the Karakoram with almost no forewarning. In summer, conditions can turn from clear skies to hurricane-force winds within hours. In winter, summit temperatures fall below -65 degrees Celsius, with winds exceeding 200 kilometers per hour. K2 was the final 8,000er to be summited in winter. Every attempt between 1987 and 2020 was turned back. It was not until the 16th of January 2021 that a team of 10 Nepali climbers, led by Nirmal Purja, reached the summit through a weather window climate scientists later calculated occurs roughly once every 200 winter days. You are there, the second highest point on Earth. Every glacier and ridge you have crossed is now sitting far below you, the full sweep of the Karakoram stretching in every direction as far as the eye can reach. For a moment, the mountain falls completely silent. Then you have to come back down.